There is a strange pattern that shows up in a lot of people's lives, and almost nobody talks about it directly. You start to build momentum, things start to feel a little lighter, you are sleeping better, or you finally had the conversation you had been avoiding, or you started taking care of yourself again. And then, without any clear reason, you stop. You miss a few days. You go back to the habit you swore you were done with. You pick a fight with the person who was finally getting closer to you. You stay up too late, or skip the thing that was working, or quietly let the progress slide, and afterward, you cannot fully explain why. This is one of the most confusing experiences a person can have. Wanting something, working toward it, and then watching yourself walk away from it right when it was within reach. It feels like weakness. It feels like proof that you cannot be trusted with your own life. But there is a name for this pattern, and understanding it changes everything about how you respond to it. It is called self-sabotage, and it is far more common and far more logical than most people realize. Self-sabotage is defined simply as a pattern of actions or thoughts that undermine your own goals and well-being, usually without full awareness that you are doing it. Research on procrastination alone suggests it affects roughly 20% of the adult population in some significant way. And what researchers have found again and again is that self-sabotage often intensifies at the exact moment someone gets closest to the thing they wanted. That timing is not a coincidence. It is the whole key to understanding what is actually happening. In 1981, psychologist William Swann, a professor at the University of Texas at Austin who later became a fellow of the American Psychological Association, introduced something called self-verification theory. His research found that people are not simply motivated to feel good about themselves. They are motivated to confirm what they already believe about themselves, even when that belief is negative. In a series of studies, Swann found that people with negative self-views consistently and specifically chose situations that confirmed those views. In one study, participants who saw themselves negatively preferred to interact with people who evaluated them unfavorably over people who were simply neutral, not because they wanted to feel bad, but because the negative feedback felt accurate, predictable, safe. This is the part most people miss. Self-sabotage is rarely about destruction, it is about consistency. If a part of you has believed for a long time that you are someone who does not finish things, who does not deserve good outcomes, who always ends up back at the starting line, then real progress creates a kind of internal conflict. Success does not just feel good, it also feels unfamiliar, and unfamiliar to a nervous system that has spent years building predictability around struggle can feel like a threat. Clinical psychologist James Tobin describes this through the concept of psychological homeostasis, the idea that people unconsciously work to maintain a familiar state of being, even when that state is uncomfortable. Letting go of a long-held struggle does not just mean gaining something new. It can mean losing a version of your identity that you have lived inside for years. And the mind, given the choice between an uncomfortable but familiar identity and an unfamiliar but better one, will often choose familiar. This is why self-sabotage so often shows up disguised as something else, as laziness, as a sudden lack of motivation, as a fight that did not need to happen, as one missed day that becomes 5. It is rarely a conscious decision to fail. It is usually an old, well-worn habit of keeping yourself somewhere your nervous system already understands. So what actually helps? The first thing is recognizing the pattern without immediately attacking yourself for it. If you have noticed that you tend to pull back right when things start going well, that is not proof that you are broken. It is information. It tells you that some part of you still associates progress with risk and struggle with safety. That association was likely built a long time ago, often for good reason, and it does not get undone by criticism. It gets undone by evidence. Slow, repeated evidence that things can be different now. The second thing is understanding that discomfort is not always a sign you are doing something wrong. Research on what psychologists call the optimal anxiety zone, the space just outside your comfort zone, not deep inside it and not far past it, consistently shows that this is where the most sustainable growth happens. A 2023 study on people who deliberately stepped outside their comfort zones found that 41% felt real fear in the moment, but 70% described feeling genuine courage afterward. The fear and the growth were not separate experiences, they happened together. That means the discomfort you feel when you are making real progress is not necessarily a sign to retreat. Sometimes it is simply a sign that you are somewhere new. And new, to a mind that has spent a long time protecting itself through familiarity, will always feel uncertain before it feels normal. The third thing is choosing, deliberately and repeatedly, to stay one step longer than the urge to retreat. Not by force, not by punishing yourself into staying, but by noticing the moment the pullback starts and asking a simple, honest question: is this actually a problem, or is this just unfamiliar? Most of the time, when you actually sit with that question, the answer becomes clear. It is not a problem, it is just new. And new takes time to stop feeling like danger. You are not your own enemy. You are someone who, at some point, built a version of safety out of struggle because struggle is what was available. That was not a failure, that was survival, using whatever materials were on hand at the time. But the materials available to you now are different. You have more evidence than you used to. You have more honesty with yourself than you used to. You have already lived through the 5 quiet signs of growth that nobody else can see, which means the part of you that pulls back when things go well is not the truth about who you are. It is just the oldest voice in the room, and it does not have to be the one that decides what happens next. You get to build a new kind of familiar, one where progress does not feel like danger, one where good things do not have to be followed by a retreat, one where staying, even when it feels unfamiliar, becomes its own kind of safety. That is not something that changes in one night, but it changes the moment you stop mistaking an old habit for the truth.